We are in Testimonies for the Church, Volume 3, starting on page 67 with the heading, Experience Not Reliable. Dear Sister N, in the view given me December 10, 1871, I saw that some things had been great hindrances to your recovery of health. Your peculiar traits of character have prevented you from receiving the good you might have received and from improving in health as you might have improved. You have a special routine to go through, and you will not be turned aside from it. You have your ideas, which you carry out, when frequently they are not in harmony with physical law, but simply with your judgment. You have a strong mind and set will, and you think you understand your own case better than others can, because you trace your feelings. You are guided by your feelings and are governed by your experience. You have tried this and that plan to your entire satisfaction and have decided that your judgment was the best to follow in your own case. But what has been your standard? Answer: your feelings. Now, my sister, what have your feelings to do with the real facts in the case? But very little. Feelings are a poor criterion, especially when under the control of a strong imagination and firm will. You have a very determined mind, and your course is mapped out before you, but you do not view your case from a correct standpoint. Your judgment is not safe to be relied upon when it relates to your own case. I was shown that you had made some improvement, but not as much, as fast, or as thorough as you might, because you take your case into your own hands. For this reason, and that you might feel it your duty to be guided by the judgment of the more experienced, I wished you to come to the Health Institute. The physicians of the Health Institute understand disease, its causes, and proper treatment better than you can. And if you will yield your set ideas willingly and abide by their judgment, there is hope of your recovery. But if you refuse to do this, I see no hope of your becoming what you might with proper treatment. As I have before stated, you, my sister, rely upon experience. Your experience decides you to pursue a certain course. But that which many term experience is not experience at all. It is simply habit, or mere indulgence, blindly and frequently ignorantly followed, with a firm, set determination, and without intelligent thought or inquiry relative to the laws at work in the accomplishment of the result. Real experience is a variety of careful experiments made with the mind freed from prejudice and uncontrolled by previously established opinions and habits. The results are marked with careful solicitude and an anxious desire to learn, to improve, and to reform on every point that is not in harmony with physical and moral laws. The idea of others gainsaying what you have learned by experience seems to you to be folly and even cruelty itself. But there are more errors received and firmly retained from false ideas of experience than from any other cause, for the reason that what is generally termed experience is not experience at all, because there has never been a fair trial by actual experiment and thorough investigation with a knowledge of the principles involved in the action. So that brings us up to the end point that we reached last night. Before we read on, I just want to highlight some of the most important elements contained in these paragraphs. First, Ellen White is pointing out to this woman that her experience was not in harmony with physical law, and her ideas were not in harmony with physical law, and instead, this woman relied upon her own judgment and her own experience, rather than relying upon what can be verified to be physical law. Ellen White clearly was against such a mode of operation. For Ellen White, genuine experience had to be in harmony with physical law. This is a very materialist point of view. Of course, if reality was not solely composed of matter, but also included a whole other realm of the immaterial, then in order for something to be a genuine experience, it might not have to be in harmony with physical law. Perhaps it might just be in harmony with this immaterial law. But Ellen White, she was advocating that things had to be in harmony with physical law. This is very, very important. It wasn't down to someone's judgment or their experience. It's down to physical law. And of course, we have discovered that physicalism or materialism is true. It can be verified to be, in fact, a reflection of reality, and the immaterial, so-called immaterial, cannot exist. Thus, such a physicalist perspective as advocated by Ellen White in these paragraphs is all that one might advocate if they are to be in harmony with reality. One of the other principles that we spoke of is the fact that the testimonies were written and published not just for the benefit of those to whom they were originally written. They were also published for the benefit of all who might read them after the fact, in order to examine themselves, better put, in order for us to examine ourselves, to see wherein they apply to us. And in truth, everyone tends to be in the habit of relying upon their experience and considering their experience to be genuine and valid and indicative of reality. But, as we have already found, that is not the right mode of operation. What Ellen White advocates in these pages, and we will see it more and more as we progress, is ultimately a scientific worldview. It is a perspective where we are not to rely upon something that cannot be verified experimentally. We are only to rely on that which can be verified experimentally. When it comes to health, when it comes to religion, when it comes to all else. We also discussed certain examples of how we might apply this to our own circumstances. We talked about how simply going through a circumstance and having perspectives concerning it does not constitute a genuine experience. That's just going through something. You can call it experience if you want, but that is not something which gives you proper knowledge. It's not genuine experience. It's not experience which you can look back upon and consider yourself a person of experience because you happen to go through a certain circumstance. Now, that's contrary to what most people think. If someone happened to eat something and then get sick, they might conclude, hey, I ate that and then I got sick. Therefore, I know that that thing that I ate is bad. And I know because I experienced it myself. That is not a genuine experience. That is simply going through a circumstance and having perspectives concerning it. And also, it's logically fallacious. It's committing a logical fallacy which confuses correlation with causation. Eating something and then getting sick is no more proof that the thing which was eaten caused the sickness, as dancing and rain falling constitutes proof that dancing causes the rain to fall. In other words, correlation does not prove causation. In order to verify that the thing eaten is the thing which caused the sickness, actual experiments have to be conducted. So, you might actually study the substance on a molecular level and gain a knowledge of the principles involved concerning how those substances or that substance interacts with the human body. That would be one way, and that's probably the best way. Another way is to conduct rigorous experiments, including many people, repeating them. Having a double-blind experiment would be ideal, where you might have a substance that's indistinguishable externally from the initial substance, and a population of people ingesting this substance and the indistinguishable counterfeit of it, if you will, and seeing if the effects are the same with both of them or just with the one that is not the counterfeit. You know, I'm basically explaining what it is to do an actual trial, and you mark the results with careful solicitude, and then you could publish it and get others to try and repeat it and see if they get the same results, and you build up a body of actual information based on these experiments. That's how you would go about verifying it. Ellen White, in this testimony, is really advocating for a high standard as to how we can acquire knowledge. It's not about passing through circumstances and coming to conclusions and thinking that that's genuine experience. No, it is about conducting rigorous experiments in order to verify what is real. Another element that I'll mention from last night's reading is the fact that it can seem very cruel when people gainsay our experience. And if someone does gainsay our experience, pride often rises up, and we say things like, "Who are you to tell me that my experience is not valid? I know what I went through." That is not an appropriate response. That is not the response of someone who really loves the truth. If we really love the truth, we'll be happy for anyone, no matter who they are, to challenge the validity of our experiences. In fact, we will love having the validity of our experiences challenged because it gives us an opportunity to put our experiences to the test and to discover what is true. Someone challenging your experiences is an opportunity to find out whether they are true. And if we love the truth, we will want to find out. Those are some of the main principles. There, of course, is more, but we won't repeat all of last night's call.